My father was a first-generation Pole, his mother from a small town in Poland, and his father from just down the road near Germany. And my mother is from a small town in Italy. So I'm half Polish, half Italian. Great heritage and a great upbringing.
My parents came here in the late 1970s, and they came here mostly for opportunity and for education for their children, for myself, my sister, and my brother. They worked hard. They believed in a hardworking American ethic. They believed in serving their community and being active. They raised us here. They instilled in us a lot of American values. I myself now work for government and public service, and I attribute a lot of what I learned from what they learned from being in this country and observing Americans live lives that were dedicated to their community, that they believed in hard work, and that was instilled in us along with our cultural, a lot of our culture. And today I'm so grateful for that because it's brought together two different cultures, and I truly cherish and enjoy both of them.
I am a child of two immigrants. They both were born and raised in the Middle East in Beirut, Lebanon, and they came to America when my mother was 14 years old and my father was 27 years old. And so their experience coming to America was really difficult at first, but they, grasped the ropes and everything. And because I'm a child of immigrants, I grew up in a foreign household and I got to see firsthand their experiences. And so I'm really excited to see this exhibit because I know that it embraces immigrants, and so I'm looking forward to that. And and I also have hopes to go to law school. Thank you.
And my parents came directly from Vietnam during the Vietnam War in 1975. They did not plan to come here. They came during a war-torn country and worked extremely difficult for my brother and I to be the first college graduates in our family. And in a month, I will be graduating with my MBA here from SMU. And so I have fulfilled my parents' American dream by being successful and getting a master's here and focusing on education and working at a university. I hope to continue that for others that wish to do the same.
I was born in Bethesda, Maryland, and I'm the daughter of a Filipino man who joined the U.S. Navy back in the 1970s. And of course, he brought his wife from the Philippines. My mom came over to here where I was born. My brother was born in Virginia. My mom was a nurse, and so this is a very similar tale that is told often that, U.S. Navy man, a Filipino nurse, and it's a stereotype that often follows Filipino Americans, but I am a nurse and I'm proud of it, and served in the military as well. And so walking around in here and seeing and hearing all of the stories, it really makes me think about my own.
Hola, this is my mother, Martha Lillian Rovello. She's 84 years of age, and we are here to see the Out of Many One exhibit of 43 portraits by President George W. Bush. For me, it's a tremendous honor and privilege to introduce you my mother, because that's how everything began, with a good mama that took care of me. And today I have the privilege and honor that she can be with me and tell her, thank you, Mom, for all the work and the blessings that America and my mother and my dad and my family have received, and the generosity and the American spirit. Thank you, and God bless America into the future always.
My grandfather came to this country when he was 21 years of age from Germany. He met and married my grandmother after her mother taught him how to speak English. He had a son, which would have been first generation, who fought in World War II. He was able to get two sisters out of Germany, and the rest perished. They were German Jews. So I understand the immigration story. I was blessed to at least get to know one of my great aunts. And I work with children who are DACA. And I do believe that our immigration system does need to be overhauled.
All four of my grandparents immigrated separately from Finland in the earliest part of the 20th century. They all arrived individually at Ellis Island and found their way to Worcester, Massachusetts, where they married and my parents were born.
My parents, John and Amy, were born in Indonesia, and after World War II, because Indonesia was a Dutch colony for many centuries, after World War II, sometime after that, Indonesia wanted their independence from Holland. So a lot of people moved from Indonesia. If you didn't have a Christian name or a surname, you were going to be probably discriminated against and not have as many opportunities. So my parents got married there in 1958. My sister, they became pregnant and moved to Holland.
My father came here on the Peter Pan flights from Cuba. My brothers and I are first generation Americans. My father always taught us how amazing our rights were in this country. From something as simple as being able to speak your mind to the friend next to you, or putting up Christmas lights if that's what you want to do. In other countries, they're not able to do that. They're not able to celebrate their religions or holidays or just even their opinions the way that we are here. And it is our privilege and our duty to vote and to be aware of what's going on in our nation, because we're what make it great. And this really is still the land of opportunity always. And we're blessed to be here.
I'm presently celebrating my 70th trip around the sun. All of those years spent in the United States of America. My family heritage goes back to my Irish Catholic mother, born in Brooklyn in 1918, and my Canadian Protestant father, born in 1918 in St. John's, Newfoundland. I was born in 1952 in Brooklyn, New York, and my dad was a waiter at a great New York City steakhouse named Keen's for 15 years. Also a veteran of the U.S. Army in Patton's Third Army, and was in campaigns in North Africa, Italy, and at the Battle of the Bulge. I really enjoyed my visit today, and God bless the United States of America.
My mother-in-law was an immigrant from the Philippines. She was driven to come to America for her son, who had severe polio. Since she was told he would never walk again, she wanted to seek the best medical care for him here in America, and he underwent 11 different surgeries and was finally able to walk. He did graduate from the Philadelphia College of Arts with an arts major. He was a wonderful, very kind-hearted young man.
As a son of two immigrants, we're always told that no matter what, be thankful for being in a country like America. And this is your home, and you're protected and you're treated like it's the most important thing. My parents were a product of the Korean War, something that they instilled in my sister and I as children. And they told us, regardless of segregation or anything like that, those are people's individual thoughts. It's not the country as a whole. So I live my life every day as a very blessed person to have been raised here in the States. And my parents sacrificed a great deal to get here to America.
My grandparents were all immigrants from Bohemia, which is now part of the Czech Republic, just after the turn of the century. My grandfather was a baker, and he came to the U.S. at age 16 with his younger brother, who was 14, and they came to Chicago, and he started a bakery in the Czech section of Chicago suburbs near Cicero and lived there forever. My dad was born in the bakery, spoke Czech until he went to kindergarten, and then went to school, learned English, and 30 years later I was born. 30 years later, my grandson was born. A similar story on the other side. We are responsible and the prodigy of probably 40 or 50 immigrants.
My grandfather, Pasquale Donadio, and my grandmother, Rosina, came to America separately. First, my grandfather in 1913, and then World War I broke out, and my grandma could not travel to meet him until 1920. When Grandpa left, he and Grandma were expecting their firstborn child. Unfortunately, my grandfather never got to see his firstborn, who died as an infant. But when my grandmother came 7 years later, they had 7 children, my father the 5th of 7, and from them, from the 2, came many. We're greatly blessed and so thankful for the freedoms that we have in the United States of America, that my family could immigrate here and continue the story. So may, by God Almighty, we uphold the legacy that my grandparents started. And now, full circle, my daughter is back in Italy studying culinary school. So we're so thrilled for our freedom, and thank God.
And my parents immigrated to the United States from El Salvador during the Civil War, all in hopes of reaching the American dream, which I have had the privilege to achieve for all intents and purposes. I'm grateful for what this country stands for. I believe that America is a city on a hill, and the United States, to be exact, and all countries look to the United States for the model of what immigration should be. So I thank you for all those people that have gone before us and have laid the groundwork to make this country great. This country is what makes it great. It's not its engines or economic engines or mighty military, but it's its people, its diversity. And so thank you, Mr. Bush, and your presidency for the work that you've done.
My father was born in Greece and came to the United States when he was 16 years old. And he's been dead now for about 30 years. But we try to honor him and live up to be good Americans. Thank you very much.
So my grandparents on my dad's side were the first to migrate from Poland. And my mom is from Sweden. So I'm a first generation of Sweden. She became a U.S. citizen. My grandparents did as well. So I'm 50 Polish, 50 Sweden. And both were incredibly hardworking and thankful for the values of hard work and work ethic that they gave to me, as I am now a physician. And I raised 3 children, one working on her PhD, another one amazing dancer, and another one working on his own computer skills.
This is my mom, Mary Ann Flores. She immigrated to the United States when she was 7 years old from Mexico and came to this country because she wanted to live the American dream. And the one thing that she instilled in all the rest of us is that we were born with our citizenship, and so maybe sometimes we take it lightly. She had to earn hers and has never taken it lightly. So she spent her life in public service and raised a family of soldiers who continued to give in that public service. That's our immigration story, and God bless America.
And I wanted to tell my family's immigration story. My grandfather came to the United States when he was 19 years old and became a dairyman, and he came from the Azores Islands and the island of San Miguel. Then he went back to the islands and married and brought my mom over when she was 8 years old and all her 6 siblings. And then my father came as an immigrant when he was 3 years old from another Azores island and from the island of St. George. So I'm happy to be in this country, to have been born and raised here. We've had a wonderful life, and I'm happy you are our president. Thank you.
So I am one generation removed from my paternal grandfather, and he immigrated here from Denmark in around 1910, 1912. And his religion, he was Jewish, and to avoid persecution, which the Jews have been persecuted their entire history, he changed his name from Cohn to Halsey. But there's also some family lore that there was a Halstead name in between the two. So my real last name is Cohn, it's not Halsey. And that's my story.
My grandparents came over from the island of Ireland in around the 1900s, from Limerick and Tipperary and what is now in Northern Ireland, County Tyrone. And my mom's parents came over in around 1920 from Cavan Monaghan. And I celebrate America's Irish and immigrant history. Thank you. Bye.
I am the daughter and granddaughter of immigrants. My great-grandparents came to America from Italy along with my grandfather. My great-grandfather came 7 years before my great-grandmother and my grandfather. And when my grandfather and my great-grandmother left Italy, they got on a boat. My great-grandmother, Carnesecca, dressed my grandpa up as a little girl and made him wear a hat. And every time the guards came around on the boat, she would make him kneel down so they thought that he was a little girl because they were afraid that they would send him back to Italy. They came over, they came through Ellis Island, and they moved and they lived in Utah. My great-grandfather worked in the coal mines until they could buy land, and then they grew a cherry orchard. And I am thankful for their sacrifices that made it possible for me to enjoy the blessings.
My mother lived an incredible life. She was born in Poland at the age of 15, fled into Russia to avoid the German occupation of Warsaw. There, she was under Russian occupation for 2 years, then survived the Holocaust, fled into Czechoslovakia after the war, and then when that country started turning communist, she fled to Cuba. When Cuba began to be communist, she fled into the United States and welcomed this country and all its freedoms that it had to offer. And she had children. She came over to the United States from Havana every year to have us born in this United States so that we would be American citizens. I am grateful to her for her vision and for giving us the freedoms that we so enjoy in this country.
My parents were Colombian immigrants, entered through New York, and I am now 48 years old. I was born in 1972 in Queens, New York, and I am just so grateful to be born in this beautiful country, this great country. And my mother became a naturalized citizen in 1985. I remember that day. Her dad, my grandfather, became a naturalized citizen at the age of 100, was the oldest Colombian American to be naturalized. So I have 4 beautiful daughters, a beautiful wife, was educated in this country, and are now an executive for a Fortune 500 company. There's so much to tell, but that's what came to mind immediately.
Hello, my mom came here from the Philippines when I was a baby. I was actually born in the Philippines, but I was born American citizen because my dad. My aunt came here and she actually had a lot of trouble with her visa because she came here legally on a visa, but then she was having trouble because an immigration lawyer gave her the wrong information, and so she was undocumented for a long time, but she's good now.
In 1906, my grandmother, who was 20 years old, came to America from the Netherlands. She was born in a windmill, and she spent the rest of her life in America. She married a man from the Netherlands, and they raised 8 children in Ogden, Utah. And she worked as a person that helped with registering for voting, and she was also helpful in other ways to her community. And I'm grateful for the Dutch heritage I have as an American. Thank you.
My grandparents immigrated to the United States in the 1970s with the desire of having their future generation live the American dream and just live the advantages that they did not have back when my grandparents lived in Mexico. And as of today, I am very fortunate and grateful that I can say that I'll be the first ever in my family to attend college at Texas A&M University in College Station. I plan to major in finance and pursue a career as an investment banker.
Our family story is one of immigrants coming here from Nairobi, Kenya, and my dad's farm was nationalized in 1972. We moved to Long Island, New York, and took jobs, odd-end jobs such as being a seamstress, a dishwasher. Many immigrants, in taking those jobs, we were able to save and achieve the American dream through the help of so many, including our friends, our teachers, and the many Americans who helped us along the way. God bless America.
My grandfather came from Prussia as he avoided war in the 1850s. So he came as an 18-year-old with his sister, and they never returned to Prussia, nor did they ever see any of their family members again. He came to Baltimore, moved to Illinois, and then moved to Nebraska from there. He was a farmer and raised cattle and corn for the rest of his life. My grandfather, his son, was the second oldest in the family, and his mother died during childbirth. So he was kind of excommunicated from the family. And they grew up in central South Nebraska.
My parents came to the United States from India back in the late 1970s, and my mom in 1980. My dad came to study in school and college in New York, and that's where he first came to America, also where he first came to faith in Jesus. And so many people were so kind to reach out to him. He then married my mom, who was in India, and she came over to the U.S. in 1980, and they made their home in Atlanta, Georgia, where they still live today, and where I was privileged to be born and raised. So the immigrant story is part of my journey, my parents' journey here, and my family history. And I'm so, so thankful for the blessings of America, that just what America's meant to my parents and to me and to my brother and to our extended family. As a result, I thank God every day for the privilege of living in this country, and I'm so grateful for President Bush and for all who have led our country well.
Both my parents were immigrants. My father was born in Leon, Nicaragua, and my mother was born in Vancouver, Canada. And they both immigrated to the United States in the, I think, 1940s, and had their family here. We've been here ever since, and we're just happy to be Americans. My parents both got naturalization, and we're so grateful to get that naturalization.
My father moved here when he was 5. He was born in a refugee camp in Sweden as my grandparents escaped Estonia under German occupation post-World War II. My grandparents escaped in a rowboat across the Baltic Sea to Sweden, where they lived in a refugee camp and where my father was born 10 months later. They saved up enough to go to America, but unfortunately their boat was not seaworthy and they were quarantined in Cork, Ireland, for many years before my grandparents secured a job on a ship coming to New York City. My father at that time was about 4.5 years old. They landed in New York City and made their way to Hollywood, California, My father went to Hollywood High School, and my grandparents lived in Hollywood until recently when they moved to Seal Beach, California.
My grandparents came over in the early 1900s, I believe 1912 and 1913. My mother's side was from the Pyrenees Mountains in Spain, and my father's side was from the Tuscany region in Italy. And anyways, that's our story.
Hi, I'm Margaret Spellings, and my dad was a Canadian immigrant. I had the pleasure of working for President Bush for about 25 years. And my dad left Canada to come to Michigan to study and get a PhD in geology, where he met my mother and where I was born in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So we ultimately made it to Texas, and he was a Canadian citizen, almost all of his life, but became an American citizen so he could vote for George Bush when he ran for president of the United States. And I like to think it was my dad that helped that great event happen for our country. That's my story.